This lovely day.
Powerful.
How you feeling? Tell to the people. Tell them, look, we need this money to digitize this content. Tell them.
No, we do. I mean, we have probably 10,000 hours of historic video footage. And we want to digitize it and get it up on YouTube on the website, because what our people need more than anything right now is their history. Their history will impact our ability to survive at this particular time. I think what we forget is that we live in a very hostile environment. Europeans who enslaved African people 400 years ago, these are the same Europeans who are in political power, who control the political system, the banking system, the educational system, and really the economic system. And their goal is to remain superior and to present themselves superior to the world. Mm-hmm. And the way that they do that is by using the resources that brought them to Africa 400 years ago. And we are a primary part of the resources, even though they got the gold and all of the minerals out of Africa to make the atomic bomb and cars and everything else they have. We're still here. We have managed to survive everything that has been thrown at us. And even if you look at our names, that's a part of the ability of Europeans. It's a part of the tools that Europeans use to keep us conquered, because when you have been ripped away from your name carries your blood. Your name carries your history. Your name carries your relationship with Africa and your people. So when you lose your name, and if you remember Kuta Kinte in Roots, you see how he resisted being called a European name, accepting that. Mm-hmm. That is for all of us. And the only way we can get our names back is to understand who we are. And see, you're just coming from South Africa, and you explained to me your experience there and your relationship there. And we have tremendous hope as a people. The world still awaits our liberation. Within the next 30 years, even 20 years, the way technology is going and the way science is making inroads to the ability to not create life, but to manipulate life to the point that human beings as we know them will not be the same.
I'm going to slow you down for a second, because let me tell you, we're going to have to get a camera and start working on interviewing you more, because we don't give you enough attention that you deserve. I want you to talk to the people. I don't think they understand the urgency of the archive. We kind of said to them, hey, donate, we're gonna digitize it. But you want to kind of talk to them on a daily basis when they buy food, when they eat pizza, when they go to church and give money, when they buy expensive sneakers. What we're saying to them, if we are able to complete this work, we can ensure, we could definitely tell them that there will be a better life for their children. So this helping you to complete your work will actually make it better for blacks all over the world and whites in bringing up this knowledge. We haven't been able to not say aggressive, but really let them understand $5, $10, $100, $200. This is the real Wakanda move. This is, as far as one of the greatest movement right now in history. We didn't tell them that this is as important as air. How can you express that in words to them?
Well, it's critical that we know our history. And some of our greatest researchers, historians, are people that I had the opportunity to travel with. Dr. Ben, Dr. Van Sertima, Dr. John Henry Clark, Tony Martin, Asa Hilliard, just about all of the names, many those who have done the great work. Even Al Sharpton and Reverend Daughtry, and you named them. I was the official documentarian for the movement. So every day I was recording. And these people are great in their own right. And they put their lives on the line for African people. I was blessed, and I said blessed because it was just a great journey to have been on that journey with so many of our warriors and record their words, their research, their action. And our people need that in order to understand who they are and where we come from as a people and what we have given to the world. It changes the way we perceive ourselves. And that is important in determining what you do and what you believe you can do. And if you believe you can do a thing, you can do it. But all of this great history that laid down the foundation for all human knowledge comes from our ancestors. But if you don't know that, you are like a man with $1 billion in the bank, but because you don't know you have it, you don't go to the bank and access it. But we have a $1 trillion history. We have trillions and trillions of dollars in our history.
So let me cut you for a second. And I want to say something a little bit different. First thing I want to say is, you think before I say every black man should give you $50, before I say that's watching this video, personally, I consider you a general. You know, I consider you, when you talk about Marcus Garvey, Dr. Clark, I put you up there. You know, that's how I see you personally. Spending the time with you, getting to know you, but seeing the other work you've done. A lot of people don't know how seismic you are because you never really televised and you stayed in the background for so long. So they don't understand that you're a living giant among us. And with your level of humility, you've never come across that way. And the reason why I'm trying to put it in words, so many times we take you for granted, but you're probably one of the last standing giants of our era for the past 100 years. What I'm saying to people is, if you understand the magnitude of work that Minister Brown has done, you'll understand why you owe him $50 a piece to complete his work. You see, it's gone beyond help us. It's more like, here's the general. If you're a black man and you're a soldier and you understand what the war is, put up your money or shut up forever. That kind of message we have to send at this crucial time. There's the general, he's healthy, put up or shut up. How do you convey that in better words?
Rondon, I have so enjoyed life, and life has been so good to me. And just being friends with people who I consider great. I never considered myself. I never saw myself the way you see me. I was just a humble brother, and I'm still just a humble brother. But I've always been willing to put my life on the line for my people. And so when you talk about, putting me on the same level with people, the greats, I don't really see myself that way. It's true now when I start looking at the work that the Creator blessed me to have in my hands, to have accumulated.
Mm-hmm.
I was just really documenting the works of great people, and they were my friends, most of them. But I never considered myself on the same level with them. I looked up to them. I saw them as you see me.
Yeah.
But I think people should give, and they should give with all of their heart, because in my eyes, their work is worth it. Their sacrifice is worth it. I'm talking about great warriors for our people. And I know they were great warriors because I was there feminine. I was there with them. I traveled with them. I was on the line with them. If our leadership had said, go into the lines of police who at times were surrounding us, I would not have hesitated to go into the line against the police, even though I was not armed. And there were hundreds and hundreds of other brothers who would have done the same thing. I can't say they were not armed, because some of them were, but they were willing to do battle. I mean, you look at the Black Panther Party, and why I may not have been a member of the Black Panther Party, I knew of them, and they were of my era, and I knew many of the people who was in the party. I was in the National Black United Front from its inception here in New York under the leadership of Reverend Daughtry, and we certainly faced off with the police at all times. I mean, trying to force this city and this administration, people like Ed Koch and others, even what's this boy that's speaking up for this Trump, this racist Donald Trump, Giuliani. We demonstrated against him. Black people hated Giuliani because he was a racist back then, and he's a racist today. So he haven't changed. So we know the players in the game because we have been against them and have fought against them going all the way back. So yes, you need to give, because this is the only place that history is.
Let me go back and revisit what I'm saying again, because I want to keep on instilling this message. You're never going to say it, but I'm going to say it. I'm going to keep saying it. And the reason why I have to say it is this. The story and the history of a people, it's sometimes more important than the flesh. The flesh comes and goes, but the story remains.
That is true.
Right?
You put your fingers on it.
Now, if you're the man that recorded the history that could change the entire continent of Africa and change every black people's life in America, could change a decision on religion, could change your understanding of your heritage, could rebuild your strength. If you're the man who could change the minds of millions, you, one man, your work, not who you recorded, the hours you put in to record them, and your commitment. If you're the guy that can change the minds of babies that are not yet born, aren't you one of the most important men right now alive to us? Yes or no?
I can't answer that.
And I want to say yes to that. And the reason why it's an honor to even shake your hand and to work with you is because of your humility. You see, that kind of humility is what got us in the mess in Africa. They took over.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
So you gotta tell the people, you know what, Ronnie said, I'm one of the greatest of all times. You need to treat me. Your alley.
Well, I'm glad you're saying it, so I don't have to say it because I don't see it.
Just whoever is watching this video, we don't beg because the man is humble. He's done the work. All who's donated, thank you so much in all humility.
Really do, thank you.
And you've seen how much we've uploaded and how much you received. You know, continue with the blessing. Know that the giant lives. And I'm going to forever be in debt to Minister Brown for how he's changed my mind and allowed me to grow as a man. We stumbled upon each other some time back, and I saw the work that needs to be done, and we combined energy and we went to work. And when you meet a general, when you meet a real warrior, when you meet an elder who actually fights a certain way, this is a man that goes to war without going to war. This is a man who fights a battle that he's always going to win. When I look at your strategy and your approach and knowledge and how you now build a weapon for us as people to enable our mind and our children and the unborn children to actually move ahead, I'm asking everyone, be a part of the movement. You won't regret it. You know, this man is a giant, so please support the giant and make sure his work comes to fruition in this reality. Say the final words.
Well, the final word is listen to every word that my brother Rodney Pillinger has spoken to you and follow through with it. Do exactly as he has said. Give, because this is really critically important. Without our history, we cannot survive. Peace.
Thank you.
So I looked around in Africa, I saw the same thing. The dirt roads, no electricity, water scarce, no running water, the sewage bad and so forth. But what I saw was that they were modeling themselves after America. And so, but they were like, 40 years behind. But you could see where we had went to, especially African American people, how our progress had come about, and you could see it very clearly in the towns and places like Ghana. You could see where they were building, roads were being paved, electricity was being ran to the rural areas, more wells was being built, more people were getting running water. The sewage was still open sewage, and people had outhouses, but you could see the change. They were getting bathrooms with running water, toilets and everything. So you knew where they were going, and because of that, you could really make an investment right on down to fast foods, because you knew they were coming too. And it's true, McDonald's and Popeyes and every thing here was showing up there. So being African American and reading the development really gave us an advantage in terms of knowing where things were going, and therefore we could make certain investments in terms of going into businesses and so forth ahead of the curve. but not enough of our people. That's what Dr. Jeffries, Professor Smalls, they bought the hotel in Ghana, which was a good investment. But, you know, this is what I'm saying. They hooked up with Ghanaians. We worked together. They were inducted as chiefs by the local people. And there were a lot of African Americans who were, even though it was ceremoniously done, it was still, you know, an outreach to African Americans. Some of these chieftains had more impact than other one. I know Dr. John Bowman, for an example. He was a psychologist from here who went.
Let's rewind a little bit. Sorry. A lot of the conscious movement or the struggle or this journey you've been on, right? A lot of black men and women today think that not that there's a failure, but the outcome of what your team, the men you fought with, have done. You have people call the so-called conscious community.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke to a family member, and it gets to the point where some blacks think it's a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that this Pan-African movement. Give us some of the results. Without the movement, in today, what are some of the results of the movement? Reverend Daughtry, James.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the results that you could talk about?
Well, there's a consciousness. When we first started going to Ghana, for example, there was a absolute love affair that was going on between Ghanaians and African Americans. But the foundation for that goes all the way back to Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana after liberation from the British. Kwame Nkrumah went to school here. I think he went to Lincoln University, and he was a part, literally, of the conscious community in that people like Dr. Clark, he knew a lot of us. When I say us, I'm speaking of the African American community. That's who he hung out with. That's who he went to school with. So when he was elected as president, first president of Ghana, he invited African Americans to come to Ghana to help him set up the government. Dr. Clark went. There were a number of people who went, who I met when I started going to Ghana. But of course, after Nkrumah was dethroned and died, the relationship was no longer as tight as it was, but the relationship survived. And so it paved the way for all of us to go to Ghana and be inducted as chiefs, and we were trusted. And there's a community in Ghana of African Americans, of more than 6,000 families there from here. And they have formed an association where their focus is to get dual citizenship, which is critical for us as African people, but there's not enough of us, working on that. But that is one of the things, just like the Jews have dual citizenship in America and Israel, that's what we need with Africa. And there, South Africa, for an example, you talked about Reverend Daughtry. when they got their liberation, their independence from South Africa, we were invited. We were a part of the celebration. The government invited us. They treated us royally. They acknowledged the work we had done in terms of the demonstrations around the South African embassy and demanding that Nelson Mandela be set free, and South Africa must be free. Africa for the Africans at home and abroad. You know, I mean, we have had an impact, but of course, the impact has not been widely enough publicized on both sides. And so, why, you know, they've, and I might say this because when I was in Nigeria, I get up many mornings, I couldn't tell whether I was here in America or in Nigeria, because the music I hear would be James Brown and whoever. I mean, they played our music, they dressed it. We had profound impact on Africa through the music, and I said it went both ways. So that you know, there was an acceptance, but the breakthrough on the economics, so we really began to do business like Marcus Garvey laid out. And I might say, in Ghana, the military square, when you come in, there's a huge, you know, arch-like, and the Black Star. Ghana adopted Marcus Garvey Black Star. You know, their first car, their emblem is the Black Star. The first car, the emblem on the car, in the grill is a Black Star. Just like Cadillac has his emblem, the emblem in Ghana of their first car represents Marcus Garvey. And we've been there for conferences and all kinds of things. So, and the government of Ghana and Nigeria and other African countries do recognize the struggle, and there's talks. We are part of the movement in Africa to unite Africa, both at home and abroad. We represent the sixth zone or sixth district is Africans in the diaspora, which we have representation.
Good. So you created a foundation, the fabric. The way governments are now in Africa is based on the movement in America, which for the African Americans. So you literally helped to structure government in Africa and in America based on the result of that. Great. Now let talk to the young generation, the future you. Talk to the future you. You've created the foundation. There are men and women who would like to continue the work of your peers.
Mm-hmm.
And Garvey had many winning points, and he had some fail points. Malcolm X, Dr. Clark. There are many egos at times in the movement, and sometimes there's lack of planning, lack of really. There was a lot more emotion sometimes, as opposed to a lot more fighting, a lot more injustice at the time, as opposed to the Jews who focus on economical fundraising. How do we have the movement continue so that each elder will have money? Dr. Benz, Dr. Clark, Marcus, they all died poor.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to the future you. What are some of the mistakes or some of the things you guys could have done differently to create an economical sustain in kind of something to sustain the movement economically, where you have a foundation where the scholarship from the conscious community can go towards youngsters to keep the movement alive, as opposed to, you know, the struggling day by day just to be a part of the movement. My perception is that one of the fail points is that there's not a proper economical system to continue the movement from a financial standpoint. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but let me say this, and that's why history becomes so important. Africans in America are some of the most courageous, some of the most brilliant people on the planet, because we survived slavery. And that in itself was an awesome feat. We not only survived slavery, but we are the key instrument for making America a democratic, a democracy, because America basically is a country of thieves and killers and murderers, usurpers. They came here among the Native American, and they killed almost all of them, took their land, and they themselves were not strong enough to work the land. And they were so greedy in taking the land, they had to bring the African here to work the land. But Africans were not slaves when they came to America. Africans were members of great nations and empires. Most of us come from the west coast of Africa. Our last great empire was the Songhai Empire, which was a tremendous empire. And our heritage go back to ancient Egypt, and many Africans of the Akan, especially in West Africa, where many of us were captured and brought here. They traced their lineage back to ancient Egypt. Their names hooked them up. They still have the names. Their language hooked them up, and their culture and the way that they see the world is also a connection back to ancient Egypt. So when we came here, we came here as doctors, whether you want to call us medicine men or what, but we were great in that we knew the herbs, we knew the earth, which is what George Washington Carver inherited when he said he could go out and he talked to the plants and they told him what to do. I mean, but we would be talking all day if you just wanted to lay out what Africans brought here as a people. Many of the plants, cotton itself, indigo, rice, all of these things are products that came with us from Africa. What they did, they saw these products in Africa, and they didn't know how to grow them themselves. So the whole people, whole areas in the South where they planted rice, well, that was a technology out of Africa, and they didn't just bring the technology, they brought the people who knew the technology and who knew how to grow the rice and harvest the rice and so forth, and enslaved them here to do that. All of these rich Europeans and some of the biggest companies and so forth trace their roots. Their roots can be traced back to slavery, and they are that way from the monies made by our ancestors working from sun up to sundown for a few hundred years and never been paid. So that the wealth of not only America but of Europe is was dependent upon free African labor. Shit, if I had free African labor free labor for 200 or 300 years, I'd be rich and powerful too.
So let's fast forward to future you. Let's put.
Well, what I'm saying,
Yeah.
I just want to. You can't fast forward without history. You can't skip over history and then project the future if you don't know the history. For an example, after 400 years, or after 350 years, 300 years of slavery and emancipation came, black people were the fastest organized growing people on the planet. It was against the law to teach Africans to read and write during slavery, but immediately after slavery, one of the first things we did was open up schools. Each one reach one, each one teach one, and our literacy rate went from almost 0 to over 50% of the people could read and write. We taught ourselves. We worked together. We developed, you're talking about economies. We developed economies all over the place. Wall Street, Black Wall Street was in Oklahoma, was not the only.
Yeah, Tulsa also.
Tulsa was not the only. There were over 150 black towns that could be considered Black Wall Streets across America. And there was a
Constant attack.
Under constant attack and destruction. So every time black people have begun to mass an economy, some self-sufficiency, we are attacked and it is destroyed. The one thing that white people, and when you say white people, you're talking about an organized structure from the government on down.
The CIA, the FBI.
Absolutely. They are focused on making sure
They're supreme.
the economy of blacks does not grow and does not come sufficient enough that we can get out from under slavery, under their slavery. So if you're going to project into the future, drop your buckets where you are. This is a good time to drop your buckets. Why?
What does that mean, drop your buckets?
If you are good at something, be the best at it. Work on it. Whatever you're doing, do it with all diligence and towards making a success. Let me give you a story that might help. There was a ship lost at sea. At sea, there's salt water, and the slaves, the encaptured Africans, took over the ship, but they couldn't really run the ship. So they were adrift, and they had been adrift for weeks, and they were thirsting. They were thirsty. They couldn't drink the water. They were dying. And early one morning, the ship, through a phase, floated to where they were close to another ship. And the brother on the ship hollered out, "Help! We're thirsty, we're thirsting to death." And a voice came back, "Drop your buckets where you are. You are in fresh water. Drop your buckets where you are. You are in fresh water." The ship had drifted into a river, and the river was fresh water. We have drifted into a river. Right now, the country is really at war with itself. It's at war with itself. And it's a good time for us to make a movement towards real freedom. Africa is growing, and we have a chance. Whatever we need to do our best in the political arena. Run for office where you are. Don't be afraid of it. We think as well as any white man. I would say that the least of us think as well as Trump. And don't be afraid. Drop your buckets where you are. Run for political office. This is the politics that run America. And we need to be in there. We need to take over America and bring it some spiritual justice. And by that I mean that we need to be at the table of decisions, because we will make better decisions than those people who are in power. We will bring more democracy. We will bring more equilibrium and balance and justice.
This is Ron and the legend here, Clemson Brown. Minister Clemson Brown. Now, this is the man who's presented you with all this amazing work. Talk to us a little bit. How are you feeling? How are you feeling?
Oh, I feel very well. I mean, you know, I've come a long ways. So first, I thank God. I thank the Creator. And the Creator and us, and I'm saying us because we are all one with the Creator. And we got to be more aware of that now in the position black folk find themselves in, so that we can become conscious of the strength we have, and how do we tap into our God power, because we're going to need it right now to survive Trump and white supremacy. Bill Gates, I was just reading yesterday, was funding programs in South Africa that was spreading AIDS in South Africa. And there is a concerted effort, according to what I was reading, I don't know this, but I don't doubt it, of Europeans to exterminate as many Africans as possible, into the millions if they can. So we have a lot of work to do. And when we can tap into our God self, because when you breathe air. And we all breathe in the same air. It's passing through us just like it blows through trees and the flowers. When we drink the water, our body is 72% water. That water is the same water of the ocean, of the rain. That water passes through us just like it passes through the streams, and run all over the earth. And the sun is the same heat that beats our heart. We eat the earth, we are the earth. So when we realize that we are nature, that's who we are. All of the energy of the universe is the energy that makes us, that we are. So when we can tap into that with our consciousness and understand that there is positive, negative, in everything, and that Europeans represent a negative force, which carries with it death and destruction when it comes to black people anyway. So that we have to balance that, and we balance that with a positive force. So it's the consciousness that we become aware of, which is what our ancestors understood and gave to us thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. Ma'at. We have to get back to living that way with one another, and removing the ego so that the universe speaks through us and not our ego, which causes destruction and death towards us and amongst us. So I'm glad to be feeling better. I have been fighting to get my health back for the past couple of years, really, especially the past 6 months. But I feel great. Mm-hmm. I'm back on the battlefield. I'm ready to go. I got my weapon.
Tapvideo, it's been a long journey.
Thank you.
And you've touched many all over the world. How do you want them to continue your work? How do you want them to support your work? Because it's not completed yet, the upload.
Well, actually, information is critical for us as a people. And because the archives, which I dedicated my life to collecting, I managed to capture some of our greatest historians. And they're gone. Most of them are gone. But we still have their voice and their teachings on tape. So that saving this archives is critical. Information is critical. We need it. So I can use all the help that you can give me. You know, I just get a little, what do you call that? Social Security. So anything that you can give to help, I greatly appreciate and use it for that purpose.
So we have a long way to go.
We do.
We have over 400 tapes online. And how much do you estimate that's left to upload?
Well, at least 500. But the archives itself we probably have another 5,000 hours.
Okay.
That we're trying to save and archive.
So let's get to it. So people should donate to continue to buy the equipment, continue to digitize. Time is of the essence. 2020, what do you think about this new dawn in this new 2020?
Well, I think we live in an exciting time. Mm-hmm. I think we live in a very exciting and dynamic time, and we will survive. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We will survive, even with all of the
attacks,
destruction that's against us. We will survive. We will overcome it. We just need to keep our eyes on the prize.
Do you think Africa is the destination? What do you think about this acceptance of Africa, this balance now in travel from America to Africa, Ghana, returning home? What do you think about that energy?
Oh, I think we have to work together. We have to do projects together. We got to become much closer, and the technology is so that we can do that. Mm-hmm. I mean, the technology, just like I'm sitting here talking, I'm talking all over the world.
Yes, sir.
And can be picked up in Africa. Of course, we have to do more to be more direct so that we can improve. Same thing CNN does and all these other stations. We got to get in the mix. We've been behind in the technology, but our minds are just as great, and we can catch up. Chinese is all over Africa, but we could be all over Africa as well. We have to. We got to be working together. China is there for China. So we need to bring all of our scientific knowledge and our love and commitment to making Africa strong. We are Africans.
So we need your leadership. Would you commit, let's say 1 week you do a 30-minute, direction for the people recording for us? Your ideas?
Yeah, of course.
You think you'll commit? You committed.
If I thought it would help, yes.
You committed your entire life, so we're asking you a little bit more.
Yeah. No, it's not a problem.
Yeah, because your experience. How old are you now?
I'm going on 81.
Respect, love. You look strong. Oh, and your
Thank
hands
you.
are stronger than mine. It's been a pleasure working with you. This archive has been a major part of my life, and many people out there. We need support and people helping us with Twitter, Facebook promotion. Keep sharing on Facebook. Print the business cards yourself. Tapvideo.com. Walk in your neighborhood and give it out. These are the kind of help we need. If you love the program, print 1,000 business cards and make it your commitment to give out to 1,000 people those business cards, because this archive is probably one of the most important archive for our generation and the next generation and generation. So keep donating at tapvideo.com. There's the general. He did it for us, and we're going to do it for the children in the future. Thanks again, Minister Clemson Brown. Tell them a little bit about yourself, because some people might not even know you.
No, I'm writing a book, so
You are?
Yeah, all this will
Be in the
about
book.
me would be in the book. Yeah.
Good. So look, when are you looking to release that?
Oh, I don't know. I just really got started, so it'll be a while.
Are you typing it along, or are you recording it?
I'm both.
Good.
I did some recording last week, so I'm just getting into it.
I see you looking happier. I think that story's coming out. You're really realizing, wow, you're impressed with you when you're hearing the story.
No, I get a chance to look back and thank so many people, even if I'm doing it spiritually. I've been so blessed, and I thank the Creator. And I've had very few negative or unhappy times in my life. This is the first time I've really been ill in all my 80 years. It's the first time I've really been down. So looking back at all the people I've had a chance to walk with and travel with and record, I am so blessed. So this time of sickness has given me a lot of time to reflect. So I'm good. I'm good. I just thank the Creator.
And your wife?
And I think oh Lord, I thank my wife. I would not be here if it was not for my wife. My wife pulled me through the last couple years in her dedication and, making sure I got what I needed.
And someone said that your wife is the main reason the building of the archive, because she allowed you to focus. If it wasn't for her, you wouldn't be able to focus.
No, that's true. She is the main reason. And she traveled with me a lot. I took all over Africa. I'm saying I took all over Africa because she went with me, because, I did the arrangement.
So you
But
lived
I took my family. I even had family reunion
in Africa.
in Ghana, yeah.
You've had the most exciting life when you think about a man going back home, capturing home, telling the story of home and home in America, the struggle. You've seen the struggle, you've seen the violence, you've been in the protest, you've been and you've lived to tell the story now. Many of the ones who have participated in this struggle have not lived to tell the story and then to tell all the stories. So that's what makes you an interesting character in the narrative of our people. You lived it, you stayed behind the camera, you told the entire history and story of our people, and now here you are writing your book. That's a blessing.
But I want to say that I merely recorded the great minds like Dr. Charles French, Dr. Jeffries, Professor Smalls, Dr. Clark, Dr. Ben, all these people who began the conscious movement from the 70s, Reverend Daughtry, I mean, the whole black community at one point was united. We were together much more than we are now, but we were together. And I came along with those warriors, and I just did what I loved doing, which was record the story. I was one of the first recorders of our history on videotape and film and so forth.
Do you see your work continuing? When you look online, do you see similar people continuing to work?
There are similar people.
To be driving in the car with you today. How you feeling?
Oh, I feel marvelous, wonderful.
You're still on the move. You're always at war. I know you're a peaceful man, but it seems like you're always at war. How is the spirit to be a peaceful man like you are, but always at war? How do you do it?
It's consciousness, because as a people, there are people who are making war against us at all times. The system that we live in is a system at war with us. Has been from the time we were brought here as Africans, as Ethiopians, as Egyptians, people from the west coast of Africa, from the Empire of Sungay, the Moors that were brought here. We are a great people, but because of the gun, and really because of the gun and gunpowder, we were conquered.
Before you continue, we're going on a mission today to meet a lady that's going to help us to archive the content. And this is what we tell all the brothers and sisters to keep donating, because we're going to pay her to help us to archive the content. And remember last time I said to you, every black man and woman owe you $50 so we could finish this work. And those people did donate. They didn't hear us. And we're going to.
And I want to thank them, all of them.
Yes, please. There's some people who send $200, $100, and because of their donation, we hire people now to help us. So we hire 2 people to help us. So because of your donation, thank them. Thank those who helped, Mr. Brown. Thank them.
Oh, great. I thank you more than words can say. And let me say this to you. I wake up in the mornings, some mornings, and go out and sit on my porch and write ways that I love you. I'm always trying to think of how to let you know that I love you as a people, and to encourage my people to think of ways of letting each other know that they love each other, that we love you, whether it's writing poetry to black women or to your woman, or if you're a woman, to your man, to your brother. But we have to come up with ways of expressing our love for one another, because we have been taught to mistrust and to hate one another, and that is a major point of separation, a major point of how we are controlled by our enemies. That's why in Chicago you could have 17 killings, 17 shootings. I think it was 47 shootings over a weekend in Chicago alone. Which way?
Now keep going down. You're gonna turn on the roundabout. We're gonna come back this way.
Oh, okay.
So now, before we continue with that, it's an honor always to be around you. You're 78 years old.
79 yesterday.
79.
Yesterday.
Yesterday was your birthday?
Yesterday was my birthday.
Yesterday was your birthday?
25th of August.
How come I didn't hear about this?
I don't know.
Did they have a party for you?
Yeah, the family took me out to dinner.
Oh, well, people online, I'm uploading this video tomorrow or today. Say happy birthday to the king. No, you're 79. Now, let's just tell the public. In February, you had a heart attack. Second, let's get this out there.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to tell the public.
Not necessarily. I mean,
Now, reason why I'm bringing that up, again, is because you want to see your work finish. And the donations we're raising is to complete your work, right?
Yes, right.
And you want to build a museum.
Yep, absolutely.
And you now want to build a greenhouse in South Carolina.
Yep.
For planting stuff. So there's a lot of stuff you want to do. So just thank the people again. Tell them to continue to donate because we're making it happen. We're on the mission today. It's Sunday. He's 78, second heart attack.
79.
79, second heart attack, and the man is still going.
Oh yeah.
The last video you recorded with the brother with the ancient Kemetic principles. What's his name?
Dr. Gary Young.
Yes. So, right here. Okay, cool. So basically, you did that video after your second heart attack.
Yep.
Why do you keep going? Why do you keep going? Why can't you just sit and rest?
No, that's what I live for.
You live for the war or the peace or your people? Is
for
it
my people? I was born to do this. I really was born to do this. So I keep doing it.
So is it really the people that you love?
Yeah. Yep.
American people, African people, what people?
African people. And that's not to say I don't love all people, because I do. I've had the opportunity and the blessing to travel pretty much around the world. And there are good people around the world. But we have been at war for many, 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 many years. And since the 1400s, we were brought here.
Red War. So Minister Brown, you do it for the people. We're going to catch you a little later. But for now, we're on a mission, so we're going to take it offline. Mr. Brown's shop. Now, talk to me.
I got
This drink that you made today.
yeah.
Talk to me about it. What's in here? And why?
I got ginger. I got garlic. I got peanut butter, because I like peanut butter. I put it in here for the taste.
Okay.
I got black seed oil.
Black seed oil.
I got cayenne pepper. I got cinnamon. I got pumpkin. I got pumpkin seed oil.
Pumpkin seed oil.
I got pumpkin seed oil. I got flaxseed oil.
Flaxseed oil.
I got flaxseed oil. I got energy greens. All of these. That has all of this in this, so I don't have to go out and buy everything. It's already in there. Garlic, ginger.
So how old are you?
I'm 80.
You're 80.
Yeah, I got papaya, which I keep in the refrigerator, ready every morning. I got okra, which I get from your mama. I got Jamaican seaweed. I got
Whoa, what's that? What's your clothes? What's that?
I got
pineapple.
pineapple.
Ooh, yeah, that's the bad boy right there. People don't know.
And I have coconut milk. Today I use cashew milk to
Coconut milk.
milk. But I got coconut milk. I generally use coconut milk. Shit.
And you got the aloe.
And I got aloe.
And you put some of that in there.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever used a piece of the skin?
No, I didn't use the skin.
Use the skin next time.
And I got a pepper, which I get, and I got blueberries.
Ooh.
I use just one of these.
Okay.
And beets.
Oh, you got the beets and the carrots. You probably got some carrots too.
I don't have any carrots, so I didn't put any carrots in. But you got my secret.
That's the secret. And
Well,
you're
it
80.
ain't my secret. You gave it to me. You gave most of the stuff I got from you.
No, but you know what you did? These pumpkin oils, this stuff you're adding here, this right here, what's that?
Black seed.
The black seed oil.
Yeah, black seed oil.
And you know where to buy all of these?
Yeah, I get from my friend who's a herbalist. I get the black seed oil. I get the pumpkin seed
What's the
oil from
black
here.
seed oil good for?
Everything. Black seed is a miracle oil. It's a miracle. Black seed is good for everything.
And you got the raw honey. And where do you get that from?
The raw honey I get from Sam's. Unfiltered raw, 100% raw and unfiltered honey. I put some of that in there for taste.
80 years old.
Yeah.
Looking good. And this is that magic drink. Let's see this. I liked how you process this.
Yeah. I put it all in the blender.
This is life.
Blend it down. This is 2 days. This, 2 days. Take me 2 days to drink that. 2 glasses in the morning.
And you feel strong.
Yeah.
Because that's seaweed, you know.
You know, I had a heart attack. And this is what I'm doing.
You had 2 heart attacks.
Yeah, this is what I'm doing to get back.
The doctor said you.
I didn't.
The doctor said you wouldn't. You remember?
said-
Tell us about the numbers.
Well, my heart ejection fraction was 20% after the heart attack. And the doctor said that they couldn't get it any higher. So they were giving me medication to maintain, the strength as it was. And I would be on these medications for the rest of my life. They didn't give me any hope for any improvement or to get back the way I was before I had the heart attack. So I said to him, but that's unacceptable that you think that I can't get my heart back to its normal strength and so forth. So he said, yeah, I'm afraid you have to be on these medications for life, and I don't see your heart improving. It's ejection fraction. So I went on this. Matter of fact, you came to the hospital. You told me about pumpkins and okra and all of these things I'm now using. So I started to blend them. You told me which blender was the best blender, and I got it. You told me about the market for fresh food that didn't have these pesticides and so forth. So I started going up here where the Jamaicans are growing all this food in vacant lots. Hey, I went back to the doctor, maybe it's been 6 months since I had the heart attack. And he said, wow, your refraction rate is now 39%. It has doubled. And he took the credit for it. He said, oh, that medication I got you on is really working. I want to leave it at that because I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And I'd not gotten in the hospital in time, I'd be dead. So, the hospitals have their place. And for trauma, gunshot wounds and all these things, certain conditions, you know, you got to go to the hospital. I hit my head once and had a hematoma, and they had to go into under the skull. You know, matter of fact, I got this little round thing as big as a quarter in my head now, and they were successful, and they stopped the bleeding and so forth. So I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but at the same time, if I didn't get on this nutritional diet, I believe my heart would still be at 20% fraction rate, because that's what they told me, and they told me that's all I could expect. So I think it's the nutrition that has stimulated my recovery in terms of strength and so forth. So I'm looking to get off these medications. The herbs and the raw food and everything, I think, will do it. But meanwhile, I still take the medications. But
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Gerald Dees. Welcome to Health Center from Downstate Medical Center. Today we're going to go on a journey. We're going to go on a journey with a friend of many years, seen him come and go, and out of the country, in the country, on the islands of Jamaica, the Barbados, and all the other places, the diaspora of the world, getting film on the history of African American people, where we or who we are. And that is a history that can be lost so easily when it's not done by us for us, because oftentimes when it's done by others, it has slanted things. I've seen so many times on CNN and all these other shows that they have on television, they'll talk about historians talking about things, but not the historian who has made the history. So we are going to be interviewing today a person who has made the history himself with his crew to show what really is behind us as a people, for us, by us. You know? And so I want to welcome Clemson to us today. Clemson.
Thank you very much.
Clemson. And let's just, before we go a little further, Clemson, just where you were born, maybe your status as a family member, the size of your family, and then maybe we'll get into your travels throughout this world on history of black folk.
Thank you, Dr. Dees. I was born in Lancaster, South Carolina.
Right.
Very large family. As I said, we just to give you the size of the family, we have family reunion every year.
Right.
And there's generally 200 to 350. Sometimes it's used to be 400 members come together. We would be like a convention at the Marriott or someplace. But we started out right in the front yard of one of my aunts in South Carolina on the farm, where we were all born and grew up.
Yes.
And we had moved to cities, different states all over.
Right,
but we would
sure.
come back, and we still come back every year together, and it's just a wonderful occasion. But my family is not the only one to have family reunions.
No.
Throughout the South, black people have family reunion, and that's something to be very proud of.
Oh, yes.
So I've come from a very close-knit family. We had
That was South Carolina.
That was South Carolina.
Well, you know, my mom and dad, my mother's from Virginia, my father's from South Carolina, and they had, there was 8 brothers and sisters on each side of them. Now that's 16 aunts and uncles, okay? So when we had our reunions and so forth, it was the same kind of thing, because those people down there, I won't say that's all they had was children, but it sure looked like when you get them all together, that's all they had was children. But they had also at the same time could feed those children, because they could have fresh chicken, fresh vegetables, and
That's
things
right.
like pot liquor. You know, just before you get into your thing, I went, Reverend Sampson from Chicago.
Yes.
Reverend Sampson from Chicago. I was at the church a few weeks ago, at Nazarene Congregational Church, where we met again at that time, and he told the thing about during slavery time, the people working in the kitchen could not take food home. They only could take the pot liquor, the stuff that the food was cooked in, and they had mason jars, and they would take that, mix it with cornmeal, and of course, people couldn't understand why they were so healthy, because all the vitamins and minerals in it was in that pot liquor, you know?
Right.
And so he said, just think, something that saved us like pot liquor is a thing that's destroying us today. Not the pot liquor from the cooking, but pot, marijuana, and liquor, alcohol, is destroying us. And when I had to jot that down real fast when he said it, because it was so crystal clear of something that saved us, then something destroying us. Not anything related to alcohol and of course the marijuana, but how they're legalizing marijuana today. What's that going to do to our youth? We think alcohol and that marijuana is the most amotivational drug in the world. I mean, they try to stop green growing in countries when they see what happens to island people when you just say everything is okay. It ain't okay, but they make it feel it's like it's okay, you know what I mean? So, but go ahead now. So basically you are, I'd like to, you had your families, and you're married, of course, and,
Yes.
And how many children do you have?
I have 2 children.
2 children, right?
Yeah.
And but during your travels now, or during your things, you did other things before you got into filming. What drove you into documenting things? I mean, here you had a company at one time, I understand. Construction company.
21 men working for me. We did rehab for the city. We used to bid on those, city contracts. They had contracts with black,
Sure.
construction, and they had contracts for white.
Right.
Whites, of course, made so much more. And we did a lot of work in Brooklyn, and mostly Brooklyn, but some in Harlem. But I wanted to get to, because I want to take as much time as I can
Sure.
on our history.
Right, sure.
And that part of my life, the construction company enabled me to buy equipment and so forth, and I soon gave it up, because once there was so much happening in the black community, I saw that we needed to document our history, because, say for an example, with Randolph Evans, the young man I was telling you about that was shot in the head and murdered by a police officer in Torsley, and we would we would demonstrate in downtown Brooklyn, because 95% of the shoppers in downtown Brooklyn are black, African Americans, Caribbeans, whatever, but they're black folk. And one of the largest tax base in the city was Brooklyn, so we figured that if we could just inhibit 10% of that revenue, it would so affect the tax base and affect the businesses down there, that they would use their power to influence the city to do something about the rampant police abuse. One of our most potent weapons is our dollars. If we learn to keep our dollars in our pocket, not to spend. So Reverend Daughtry, Al Van, G2OC, number of other brothers and sisters, but essentially those came together to form that demonstration downtown. They were the thinkers behind it. And from that, we went to, the Hasidims, Crown Heights. We had a lot of difficulty with them, because of course they were trying to take over the, not so much just the Hasidims, but the Jewish community, period, in terms of political power and the need to usurp that community and take it over. And so there was a struggle there in which we engaged. There was the struggle on the continent in which we got involved in. South Africa, for an example, when Nelson Mandela was in prison, and we would demonstrate against the South African embassy. All of these demonstrations and everything that the community was involved in, and the community was a lot more unified back then. I'm
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about the late 70s, early 80s, and so forth. And we were really having an impact. So when the Black United Front was organized and became the National Black United Front, you had people involved like Khalid Muhammad, the brother, bless his heart, has passed. But you had a December 12th movement. Everybody was kind of involved. Even Sister Soldier was in the Day of Outrage and so forth. So the community, that is what brought about the first black police commissioner, the first school chancellor,
That was
black
Ward.
school
That was
chancellor.
Ward.
Ben
Been
Ward,
during
police
Ward.
commissioner
Yeah,
Ward.
right.
It didn't just come about, it came about because people were in the street, they were organized, and they were engaged in fighting back and demanding access and more of a level playing field and so forth. So the city responded by appointing Ben Ward as police commissioner. We got our first black school chancellor, Richard Green.
Yes, sir.
Even the first
Fire
black
department commissioner.
yes,
Fire-
and the first black mayor.
That's right.
Mayor Dinkins. All of this came out of the resistance movement that was spearheaded, coming out of the same movement that I'm talking about.
Sure.
That was a response to the killing of Eleanor Bumpers and Yusef Hawkins and the Howard, the brother
Howard Beach.
Howard Beach, and so forth. So the community at that time was more responsive in terms of fighting back than what it is today. So I documented all that. I was in the middle of it, trying to film all this so that we would have a record of our response to the issues and the events of our day. Even the Tawana Brawley rape,
Right, sure.
so forth. And these, and we didn't just, organize here in the city. I mean, we, say for an example, we went to Cuba because, and we showed what was happening to us here in this city, in New York and across. And we would show it to other movements in other countries to build, one, an alliance with them, and to generate sympathy and a working relationship.
Right.
Because there were movements all over, the Caribbean and in Africa
Sure.
that were trying to bring about equality and liberation for themselves. Sure. So I had the opportunity, even with Jesse Jackson, I was on the film crew. I was my own film crew, but I was with Reverend Daughtry. I traveled with him most of the places he went. And so he was a confidant of Jesse. So when Castro released 13 prisoners, political prisoners, when Jesse was running for the presidency of the United States, which
Right.
in a way broke the ice so that later on you got Barack Obama, President Barack Obama, and that's a blessing. But all of that, I went to Cuba, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Panama, all those places with Jesse. I think in 1984 I probably had the largest independent documentation of Jesse's presidency of anybody. But I think what impacted me more than anything else was my travels to Africa. And my getting involved with African historians. Because at the House of Lord, starting at the House of Lord Church, a program called APCO, which Charles Barron, who's now running for congressman, was also a part of G2C. Just a lot of people. Everybody came
Oh, I remember.
to APCO.
Yeah.
And I documented all those series. I made friends with a number of the African historians and traveled with them. Now, Dr. Ben came to the church and one Sunday, and he heard me preaching. And afterwards he said to me, Minister Brown, he said, why don't you go to Africa? Why don't you come with me to Egypt and learn the truth? And when you come back, you will be able to preach or teach the truth about this Christianity. But you're not preaching, you're not telling the truth now. You're not preaching the truth because you don't know the truth. So why don't you come and let me show you where all of this comes from? So I took him up on it, and this was around it was in the 80s, maybe 84 or something like that. And I went to Egypt with Dr. Ben, and boy, when I got to Egypt and I saw the pyramids, I was just blown away when he took me to all of the great monuments and all of the temples along the Nile and explained that this is your history. This is where all of this comes from. This is where Western civilization has its roots. They took it from your ancestors because this is what your ancestors left for you. So I would look at the step pyramids and the Abu Simbel we would go down to. We would look at all the and Dr. Ben would teach, because in the evening we would have these lectures. Dr. Ben is responsible for so many of us getting our eyes open.
Sure.
That is critical. If you do not know your history, you cannot be yourself.
That's right. Surely.
Your history, knowledge, is what gives us the capacity to expand, to achieve, to be. Without knowledge, you are like a tree without roots, without the knowledge of your history.
Sure.
So I was overwhelmed. So I went to Egypt with Dr. Ben for the next 9 years. I made 9 trips with Dr. Ben. I started to travel with people like Dr. Jeffries. He gave tours to Ghana. He had the Black Studies departments here, which was at City College, which was teaching African history. And then we would do these pilgrimage to Africa, to Ghana, the slave dungeons and the history of slavery and how it came about. And just, I mean, to be exposed to all. I fell in love with Africa. I mean, I spent as much time back and forth in Africa as I did here. Once I went and saw the people and fell in love with the people, and especially in Ghana, and to realize that there was a love affair between the Guyanese people, between Ghana and African Americans, because Kwame Nkrumah, when they won their liberation from Britain, invited a lot of African Americans to come to be a part of his government.
Sure.
Dr. Clark was one of those. And so Ghana has a long history with African Americans because Kwame Nkrumah went to school here.
Yeah, sure.
And so he knew of our struggle. So Black Star in Ghana, which is one of the major centers there, where they have, you know, a very large stadium and so forth, Black Star, came from Marcus Garvey.
Sure.
And Ghana has instilled so many African Americans, and I used to go and document these installments to restore them to their rightful dignity as chiefs and persons of importance, and to, again, from the village level, bring them back into the community with authority and with respect. And so many of these installments are not just ceremoniously,
Right.
but they're in actuality giving them power and respect and a position within that African community, so we can again be one people, one. This is critical for us to look to Africa. Africa is where everything comes from. Everything came from the foundation. Even the spoken word is African. If you look at mathematics, if you look at science, if you look at religion, if you look at chemistry, if you look at biology, if you look at any of the sciences, any of them, if you look at science period, it all, astronomy, all of it comes out of Africa. And when you travel along the Nile Valley, that is the greatest repository of wisdom, world civilization. It is not the only, because writing, all of the alphabets come out of Egypt, but they come out of Nubia. All of this is our history. We gave the world the foundation for all of its knowledge, all of it. I mean, the only reason why you can go into space is because of what our ancestors left. Our children will walk down Broadway and they'll look up at those tall buildings, and it will daunt them. But if they knew their history, it would not daunt them, because they would know that those skyscrapers are only an extension of their own greatness. Now, white kids look up there and they feel great. They say, oh, look what my ancestors did. Look what my fathers did, because they're still working on these buildings as construction workers today. But our people are locked out of those construction jobs. That's all political. This is the work that we have to do, build the economy. But if you don't believe that you can achieve,
Right.
then you can achieve.
Well, you know, this right here, downstate, was the first civil rights movement in the North, when Gardner Taylor and the ministers at Cornerstone Baptist Church and sat on the cranes outside here. I always told the black medical students who come here, I said, don't believe that you're here because you're smart. You don't know how many people have put their lives down walking down Clarkson Avenue, boycotting things that took place right here on Clarkson Avenue. And they sat on cranes, Gardner Taylor and from Siloam Baptist, Siloam Church, you know, and Cornerstone Baptist Church, and those people, they did a lot of movement here, right in Brooklyn.
Yes, I know, Dr. Dees. I mean,
to make this school
yes,
sit here today.
Yes,
you know.
I mean, fight back and, you know, trying to get, break the back, not break the back, but just open the door so our people could get jobs on
construction.
Yeah, even downstate here. I mean, the history that we have captured is so huge. You talk about the South. Reverend Oliver, we just, and we're still doing it. We just was back down in Alabama not a couple years ago to recapture, to shoot what Montgomery, Alabama is like today, compared to what it was like, and to interview and talk with those leaders who were still alive, who was involved in that movement, as Reverend Oliver was involved in the movement. And, you know, when we know about Dr. King, but a Reverend Shuttlesworth, who just passed a couple months ago, was a tremendous figure in breaking the back of segregation in the South. So we would go back and interview all these people and look at what Montgomery is today, and with a black mayor, with a black police chief, with a black fire chief, and so forth.
Oh yes, and you know, it took not only our people to do all of this, but we integrated others in the same thought process, whether Europeans, Jewish, or what have you. They were the ones that were marching with us down in Washington to the
Yes.
to all of these things, you know. And so it was a buildup of trust between races too that made it all possible, because a lot of times when you isolate yourself, you don't have the strength of the thoughts that can come in that can help build these kind of things. I know that Albert Einstein, for example, they have a book out right now on his relationship to black folk, and down in Princeton, New Jersey, and things like this, how he had the one that sang at the Link Memorial, Marian Anderson, to stay at his house when she came down there to sing. And so Albert Einstein, the great scientist, he walked down the streets with black children holding his hands, even to today, and they showed that relationship that he had because of the way the Jewish people were being treated in Europe at that time during the Holocaust and things like that.
Yes. I spoke about Professor Gabriel Ebo earlier as being one of the greatest minds, but Professor Ebo studied Dr. Einstein and studied everything that Dr. Einstein did.
Right.
And Dr. Einstein was one of his mentors. And in fact, Professor Ebo completed the work of Professor Einstein, and I'm hoping that you will have him on your program, because when we talk about the unified field theory, that is the work that Professor Ebo was able to develop the equation for.
Yes.
And so when we talk about black people, African people, the reason that we have so much destruction in our communities is that we don't know who we are. We've been taught systematically to hate ourselves, to hate blackness. I mean, the language itself codifies black as evil, as negative. So nobody, you know, wants to be identified with that which is ugly, that which is destructive, that which is low and down and out. And so when all of these connotations, and you haven't contributed anything to civilization, the world turns to the most intelligent for leadership. And if you are taught that you are not intelligent, or that you're inferior, and that you're less, then, you know, there's so many experiments done to show that that evolves into a negative self-hate and a feeling of inferiority. And so they don't teach black history in school. They don't teach that, you know, everything is related to the Greeks, that there's a Greek origin to science and all of this, when all of that comes out of Northern Africa, comes out of Africa, period, the whole continent. So rather than being leaders, we are projected as being followers and having contributed nothing, when it is the other way around, when we contributed everything. So this history that I've spent the last 35 years documenting and accumulating, and it's, I'm just blessed to have been favored by the Creator to follow such great men and to document their work. But I want to save it, and I need some money. I'm just putting, because, you know, the Bible says you have not because you ask not. I need to save this. All of this 30 hours need to be transferred to hard drive. It need to be put in different libraries and different places. It needs to be organized. In
other words, you're saying a lot of these people are making a lot of money from hip hop.
Look,
today they could put a hip hope on it. You know, I have a program with black children in school that if they can name, take the letter E and give all the positive words that start with the letter E, I'll give them $100, you know. So we take it from hip hop to hip hope. Because if you hop, you can jump so high, and hope will make your mind fly.
Yes.
So just at that level, I wanted these hip hop folks who have so much, when you see the wastage of stuff in cars and materials, things, where is the mind of this music field that has actually used our intelligence of music and things like that to say, why shouldn't they be part of this preservation? Rather than, because the hip hop itself will fade away. It's going to fade away.
Yes.
But look how they can make a definite commitment to show how they even got to the point where they could be an entertainer. We have in the African Poetry Theater a doctor with John Watusi Branch. Instead of entertainment, we need entertainment.
Yes. Yes.
You see, and when you have entertainment, you can grow and you can build. But you don't build on entertainment. I mean, that makes money, but it doesn't last much in history or change of history.
That is good.
You know, and so unless we get ourselves together in thinking like this, with this massive amount of money that moves among football players and basketball players and all these kind of sports, somebody told me the other day, one of the sports people went and bought a $27,000 wristwatch. A $27,000 wristwatch. $27,000 could take you out that basement. I mean, in a sense, or start it.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about? And what a difference a day would make, as my friend Brooke Benton used to sing, what a difference a day make. He was my patient. He was my patient. You know?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. And in fact, we wrote the first Black Santa Claus song called Soul Santa. And there's no Santa Claus song with a black Santa Claus in the world. Brooke Benton recorded that. I wrote the lyrics and music that over 30 years ago, and it's still played all over the world. And it says simply this: since nobody has seen Santa on Christmas when he steals down the chimney with care, wouldn't it be so revealing if Santa had black kinky hair? I know his cheeks wouldn't be rosy, but you could tell it was cold when you saw his red underwear peeking over his soulful jelly roll. Now, Santa's a fine soul, brother. He loves all his fellow man. He'll do anything for you, at least at all that he can. But no matter what he looks like, and no matter what you've been told, there's one thing about your Santa. He has that thing called soul.
Yeah,
So, but I'm just saying that, just throwing that in to give a person like myself who are many, many thousands, if we could put those many, many thousands together in dollars, we could save our history and make it impactful upon our young.
This is the reason why we have to do this. The cosmogony, or the philosophy of African people, and I don't want to romanticize Africa, but historically, has been oneness with the universe. It wasn't that they had so many gods, but they saw themselves as the microcosm of the macrocosm. And today, with the world, with every nation, with its hand on the trigger, ready to destroy planet Earth, the Creator is speaking through so many minds to create the space in which we can bring about disengagement. That's what we need more than anything else. Right. And our history puts us in a leadership position. Our history puts us in a leadership position to be at the table of nations. And that's why President Barack Obama was really elected. People saw within him this hope that he would bring about that space where we could have disengagement and create enough time for us to heal the planet and heal ourselves. I'm not a racist person. What has been done to us as a people is horrendous and it's horrible. And like you, a doctor, I'm a minister, and it's about healing that hurt and that destruction which has been laid on our people. And so I'm prepared to, our time is ending.
No, that's okay.
That's what this whole struggle for me has been about, in trying to document this history, in trying to find who we are as a people and what has been our contributions to world civilization and to humanity so that we can sit at the table.
Well, Minister Brown, thank you so much for being with us today. And to you out there who I'm talking to all of you all, Jay-Z, Bill Cosby, all those kind of folks. There's a lot of money to do all of these kind of things, and we really need the help, financial help, to take all of these thousands of hours of taping of our history and not to let it get destroyed, because it does get destroyed. Believe me when I tell you, it goes like a flash, just like that. And so I want you to continue on, Minister Brown, to continue what you're doing. And to you folks out there, I hope you will raise your consciousness that we can be better, we can do better, we must do better if we will not fail, because there's no way in the world, as what's happening today with our young people, that we would be able to survive this Holocaust that's happening to us. And so this is Dr. D's, hopefully to see you the next time with Minister Brown again to give more history. See you the next time.
Thank you.
So
Travel with me.
some of the times when you were traveling, it's your money most of the time.
Yeah, I got one grant in the whole 40 years. And that grant I used to put St. Paul Community Baptist Church online. I bought their cameras and editing equipment. That's what I did with the grant I got, because the ministry, St. Paul Baptist Church with Reverend Johnny Youngblood, was one of the premier ministries of its time. I mean, they were out on the street, and they were in East New York. They had a tremendous impact on bringing down the crime in the area. They're responsible for a lot of the housing. Spring Creek, I think they had, maybe not, I could be wrong, but in East New York, all that new housing development, Reverend Youngblood was a part of the group that brought all of that about. So I thought the ministry was very important. And I wanted to put it out so it would have as much impact as possible. So I used that grant to buy the equipment to put that on Manhattan Cable. Not Manhattan Cable, but Brooklyn Cable.
Real quickly, how do you feel that the project is being encoded now? Give me a
What do you
minute.
mean?
We're starting to really digitize the tape. How do you feel about that?
Oh, that's good, because I get a chance to tell the story so people can follow it and appreciate this archives better. They'll know what's happening. They can see people who were involved, who historically should be remembered and should be given honor and praise for the sacrifices that they made and the work that they did. And even though what we're looking at is a museum in Selma, Alabama, but it came about after the Edmund Pettus, the beating of our people on the Edmund Pettus Bridge brought about this museum. So they're telling the stories of not only, but primarily blacks in Alabama, Selma, Alabama. And this is one of the curators and teachers of she has a group of children right now, and she's giving them the history of what brought about the slaughter on the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
We appreciate you. Tell the people who are donating, you're going to do a series of narration. Tell them to keep donating.
Oh, please keep donating. Please, 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 please. And I thank you for all of those who have donated. Can't thank you enough, because you're really making it possible for me to focus and concentrate. We don't get we don't get any grants. The grant that I just told you about is the only grant that we ever got. And we just need your help to secure this archives. Most of the people in these archives have passed, but they were great warriors, and they left a legacy, and that legacy was captured and it's on film. And we need to honor them and appreciate their sacrifice and their work. So that's a part of what drives me to do this, is so that their memory is not lost. You know, black people have had one of the greatest, they've had one of the greatest struggles, and they have fought some of the greatest wars in this country. Even if you extend it to Haiti. But what black people have done, there's no real narrative on it. So it's as if we have just been here and just been slaves here. But that's not the truth of our history. We have the greatest history in this country.
On that note, we're looking forward to the narration to your show, Clemson Brown Live.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much. Thanks for your service.
Thank you. And thank you.
And so he became convinced that it was divine intervention that saved his life. It engendered in him a drive to fight racism and to see American people liberated from oppression by whites. He became a lifelong struggle, and this became his mission. Clemson Brown is worried that younger generations are not in touch with their rich history that sustained Africans and Africans of the diaspora. Where will this generation go to see, touch, hear, and even feel the struggle about African people to combat and overcome the yoke of racial oppression? That is why he has spent his life since 1976 collecting on film the struggle of African people. On film, he shows the demonstrations by the thousands. Black folks used to show up by the thousands at demonstrations. Now it's hard to get 100 of us out. He shows that Reverend Daughtry had a principal role in the struggle. And so many black folks followed the lead and would come out when called upon. He has all of this captured, and what he's trying to do now is to catalog it and to put it into a structure where we can come and see the things that we did. We changed New York. We just don't know it. It's on film. So it's really the greatest pleasure for us to recognize Minister Brown for his work. We all know that he's been doing it for many, many years. He's in a struggle to raise the money to do what has to be done to put this invaluable information into a format that we can look at and we can learn from, and we can ask, why is it that we no longer will take to the streets when we're called upon to do so? What intervention took place to stop this from happening? It's all in that film. And I'm happy to tell you, brothers and sisters, in the very near future, we're going to start to show some of Minister Brown's films at CMOTAP so that you can see for yourself the great, great work that this man has done. And Minister Brown, if you don't mind joining me here. Presents to videographer Minister Clemson Brown the Lifetime Achievement Award for the many decades of service and sacrifice to African people around the globe by preserving our history of struggle. Sister Betty Dobson, Chair, Brother James McIntosh, Co-Chair, we're both co-chairs, and on behalf of the Executive Committee of CMOTAP, on May 3rd, 2014, It is my pleasure to present this award to you.
First of all, to the beautiful Betty Dodson, and she is beautiful. Dr. James McIntosh, and all of the Simultap members, I am truly grateful, thankful to be honored at this particular time. To all of the brothers and sisters, and especially Dr. Dees that I see in the background, Sister Ollie McLean here. I started doing this documentation back in 1976. Actually, it was earlier. They didn't have video machines then, so I didn't start this to sell tapes and make money. Matter of fact, I didn't get into video until 1982. But all during the 70s, it was film that I was shooting on. And I had the urge, because I had hundreds and hundreds of hours worth of film that I had, kind of packed away for years. So for 35 years, I really had not went back and touched this stuff. And I started putting it into Sam's and getting it transferred, and it's expensive. And looking at it, and there was all of the 70s and early 80s on film that I haven't really looked at in 35 years. I'm probably glad of it, because had I had it out there, it would be sold all over the place, it would be on the internet. But this is a whole treasure that was never shown. But it's all of the organizing, all of the demonstrations, everything that happened that African people, well, back then in the 70s and the early 80s, we were really united. And to see us moving together to bring about the first black school chancellor, the first black police commissioner, the first black mayor, David Dinkins, this just did not come about. It came about because black people were together, they organized, they strategized, they outmaneuvered, and we had to outmaneuver it. I mean, you see, they talk about Wall Street and those people who are white folks who are down in Wall Street. Now, we was in Wall Street in 78. 30,000 of us, led by Reverend Daughtry, marched to Wall Street and made the connection between the way black people lived in their community was the direct result of these people down here on Wall Street. That in fact, they used to sell us down here on Wall Street, and that money that makes all this, market and all these millionaires came from our enslavement by these same people who are here today. All of that, I mean, the statistics, all of the issues that we have today, black unemployment, miseducation, police killings, all of that was going on then at the same rate as it is now. A little greater. But we were organized and we confronted the powers that be. Mayor Koch was mayor in 76. And one of them demonstrations, I mean, I was looking at Sister Soldier, we were looking at it. Sister Soldier was young, fine, fiery, and we marched to Mayor Koch's house down in the village, and she was telling him, we gonna come in there and drag your ass out of there. I mean, we had, in them days, we was much more militant, I think, organized. And so, I won't take up much of your time because Betty really covered a lot of stuff. That was really true about them white folks putting that chain on. They put the chain on. They was gonna lynch me. And the sister who did that story wanted to make sure the story was true. So she wanted some kind of documentation. So I said, well, my cousin who was with me, he's still alive. He's in the hospital. He had cancer. And she called him to verify that story, and he told her the same story because it was him. He never got out the car. I got out the car. They didn't even pay him no attention. So when they were trying to get the chain around me, I started hollering for him. I couldn't get away because they had me surrounded. I said, Crawford, shoot him! Because I knew Crawford was loaded. I didn't have a gun on me. Crawford had the gun. And I started out to shoot. They didn't pay me no attention. And finally, Crawford rolled the window down on the passenger side and stuck the gun out and said, which one? I said, shoot all these motherfuckers. Shoot them right now. And he clicked it tight. And that's when they started backing off the left. And it did rain. And I know that that rain saved me. And that's what really put me on this mission. I got a heavy history when it comes to white folk. I have done some things I ain't gonna go into. But I didn't let that go. I got my revenge. Let me say this. I look out, I see you brothers and sisters. I look on those films. A lot of us are not here. But I am sure proud to have been a warrior with you. I see you on those films. I see the struggle we've been through. I see your bravery. I know. See, when the Black United Front was formed, Reverend Daughtry was the point man in those days. We organized 1,000 men for community control in the Crown Heights area. You know, we had Charles Barron was there, everybody was there. I mean, and to look back at this and see us, these young brothers, if Reverend Daughtry had gave the word, you could have had 1,000 police out there, which there were sometimes. There were hundreds of police, like blocking the Brooklyn Bridge. But if the word was given, every one of us was going into that line, even if it meant our death. And we have to somehow instill this, show this to our young people. They have to know nobody gave us nothing. We took it. And if we get anything else, we're going to take that. Power yields to nothing. It never did. It never will. Marcus Garvey. Again, I want to thank Senator. I'm just happy. Thank you.